Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. This is a 1800 MMR game where I will be using some very sneaky psychology against my opponent. At the bottom here, I'm playing as an aerial specialist, starting with balls and fans, and my opponent is a speed specialist, starting with sledgehammers and fans as well. The thing with steel balls is that it gets crazy good once you get levels and once you get tech, and I personally are liking the steel ball in the current meta. I've seen a lot of tarantula players, right? And steel balls are excellent against tarantula. Even though right now aggro is not really hot, but steel ball, even in standard, can have its values. With the aerial spec, there's always this looming threat that I would just start putting down boats or a bunch of flanking wasp on the side, and I want to use that to my advantage, because in my mind, and I'm looking at this board here, I feel like there's an opportunity to get my steel balls into the higher levels, and once that happens, they become absolute monsters, very difficult to play against in the later stages. However, in order for me to get the steel balls into that level, I have to make sure that one, he doesn't start putting down scorpions, and two, he will be responding incorrectly by putting down things like mustangs, because mustangs at lower levels, they simply do not out DPS the steel balls. So as long as I can get the board set up where he is going to commit into mustangs and not so much into scorpions, I think my work is done. And being an aerial spec, you can actually use that to your advantage, because Mustangs or anti-air marksmen, these are the type of units that players typically use against aerial specs. So watch how I am able to bait some of the units in this game. Round one, actually closer than I expected. The way I positioned the units is that I wanted to use the fans as chaff clear, knowing that usually when you're starting with balls, you have terrible chaff clear in the early rounds. Alright, so it looks like it's going to be a win for my opponent, but I'm very happy with the result, especially with so many chaff on the board. First round cards. Nano repair will be amazing on a steel ball, but I was looking at sledgehammers and I was wondering, maybe I could use the fortify hacker to just tank a bit of damage, and also it would be pretty good if he does decide to go with this long sledgehammer line. So I did take the card, but nano would still be amazing, so we'll see how this plays out. Round two, my opponent noticed my lack of chaff clear, so the natural response is just to play down additional crawlers on the both ends. I added 2 arc lights. These are units that needs a bit of love in the current meta. I think a lot of people just go for the tarantula. But arc light, they do have a spot. They do survive a bit longer if you have other units running forward, because of its range, and you can also get even more range, making them just turrets in the back, getting rid of chaff. And I think I prefer the arc lights, and they're cheaper, not to mention. Now you can put down 2, covering both sides. My opponent decided to double down on the sledgehammer on the right hand side. He would have seen my level on the steel ball, so this is a bit of a curious decision, because level 2 steel ball, they do pretty darn well against sledgehammers. I wonder if Stormcallers would have been a pretty decent choice here. Maybe. Steel balls, they run so fast though, and once they start to get level, like level 3 steel balls, your Stormcallers aren't really good against. Alright. So as you can see on the right hand side, these steel balls, they just don't die. They have 10,000 HP. Sledgehammers deal 600 damage every 4 seconds, so that's a lot of shots from sledgehammers. I'm also kind of winning on the left hand side as well because of these arc light. They do decent damage against sledgehammers on the same level. All Alright, we're getting to round 3. I think there could be a unit drop here. And indeed there is. Looking at the board here, I think Melting Point would have been a little weak because I'm already going Steel Balls, and if he just puts down Melting Point, I'll just double down on the Steel Balls. Wasp makes sense for my opponent, seeing how now I do not have any anti-air. I did take the Marksman just to cover the anti-air hole of my board. My opponent took the Wasp. Very logical decision. The question is, where would he be putting the Wasp? Stormcrawlers goes down. Stormcrawlers are great with Chaff Clear. They are great against Steel Balls of the same level, but once you get level 2, they become slightly weak. Now it's a race against time. Let's see if my Steel Balls can actually get that level before the Stormcrawlers get his. Alright, we're going to have Wasp coming in late. I think I should still be able to get them, or at least get most of his unit. I'm not confident that I'm going to win this round, but I don't think I'll be losing that badly either. Ooh, the Steel Ball, the Arclight on the far left got destroyed instantly. That means I'm going to have a lot of Chaff Clear problem with just one Arclight here. These two Steel Balls are just getting shelled at. So not great, but my two Marksmen are here cleaning up these Wasps. Don't think I'll be winning on the right-hand side, but as long as I get the Wasp, I'm happy. Alright, let's speed this up a little bit. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to be losing on the right-hand side, winning on the left-hand side, surprisingly, and hopefully this Marksman will get one more unit before he eventually perishes. Nice. Alright, let's go to round 4. Nano Repair is offered again, and this is so tempting. I really should take that. But in this turn, I feel like the Underground Threat could also be very powerful. Right now, my opponent has a fairly defensive structure here, with the Stonecrawlers in the back, and lots of slow-moving chaff. And I saw an opportunity where you can start with the Underground and get Replicate, and there's right now nothing in the middle to defend. These Stormcrawlers don't really shoot this far, so these Crawlers might have a chance to just get in there, replicate some Crawlers, and take tower. I took range on these Arclights, and I also added Crawlers on the side. So these Crawlers, their only purpose is to draw the fire from the Stormcrawlers, because last turn, this Arclight died almost immediately, so I wanted to stay to do the Chaff Clear so my Steel Balls can actually do the work. I also took the energy absorption on the Steel Balls. This is more of a preemptive tech in anticipation for any type of giant. And once the Steel Ball level, let's say this one goes to level 3, energy absorption is going to be amazing. There's simply not enough burst damage here to deal with high-level Steel Balls. Alright, we got an Oil Abuser here. Oil is a fantastic technology or fantastic tool against Steel Balls. Oil is just a really good tool in general if you're running this many Stormcrawlers, because the longer you can keep the units at bay, allowing the Stormcrawlers to just shell at them, the better it is going to be for you. But now you can start to see the power of the high-level Steel Balls with energy absorption. So these guys, they're just staying here, they're tanking, they're getting HP, no problem. And now they'll get into the Stormcrawlers, even more HP. Like, these guys took so many shots, that's not even funny. On the other side, I think I should be winning, maybe. Let's see the timing of this volley. Oh, this is good tower timing. Alright, we're gonna get double towered, and I think we're gonna tend to take this round. Sweet. Alright, so we got unit drop. So here's the idea. I am aerial spec. So for my opponent, it makes a lot of sense just to take the Mustangs. Right? And this is really good for me because I am running steel balls and I want the steel balls to be my carry this round or this game. But I am terrified of scorpions. So what's a great way to force your opponent to not go scorpions? It's going to be Overlord. So I took the Overlord, I added 2 more. Knowing that there's going to be Mustangs, and also knowing that the Mustangs this round is probably not going to do too well against the level 2 Overlord. So I wanted to see what my opponent is going to do. Ideally, I want my opponent to start overcommitting into the Mustangs now that they've seen my Overlords and stop adding or not even thinking about adding Scorpions. Because when that happens, I have this opportunity about 2 rounds down that I can take armor on my steel balls. And it's a lot harder for my opponent to pivot out of the Mustangs if he's already committing hard into it. So I'm trying to bait my opponent to just put down a bunch of Mustangs now that I've seen my very aggressively played Overlords and not even thinking about Scorpions. I'm trying to build like a fake carry pack to distract my opponent from the real danger that is my steel balls. The Arclight, they're doing excellent. I like this one here. He's got the highest kill of the entire game, so am I considering upgrading the Arclight as well? Arclights, while they're pretty good against chaff that's coming in like this, they're less good against mass Mustangs. And Mustangs with so many units per pack is technically a chaff unit, which means somewhere down the line I would need a different way of dealing with Mustangs, either just by putting down even more Arclights, or I could use something else like Stormcrawlers. Alright, so now my opponent has seen my very aggressively placed Overlords, and they're actually doing a lot of work. On the other side, we got level 3 steel balls, just tanking everything, allowing my units to get in there and do the damage. I don't think it's going to be a win for me here, simply because of the Mustangs and the Overlords. They're not great against the Mustangs. But that's not the purpose, right? The purpose is to bait them from getting more Mustangs and not get Scorpions. Because later on, I'll have other means to deal with these Mustangs. Alright. Ooh, pretty tanky. Alright, not too bad. A little bit of HP damage, but not terrible. Now I have shown my hand, I think it's time to start pivoting. Oil gets offered again. Again, it's when you're up against the steel balls, when you're running 4 packs of Stonecrawlers, oil is just so OP. For me, I decided to skip. The speed spec was very interesting, but I needed to kind of get my army in position. I took armor on this turn and I start selling my Overlords. My opponent did in fact add in 2 more packs of Mustangs, and they're going to be completely disabled by the armor of the steel balls. Oil goes down. I level up my Arclights because right now, before any other units, my Arclights are my only chaff clear, even against the Mustangs. With level 3 Mustang, you do need to level up your Arclights. So in this case, even a level 2 Arclight cannot one-shot these Mustangs. So that's a bit scary. Add even more steel balls here, knowing that these armor will do a lot of work. And my opponent is hard committing to Mustangs. They got range and is getting aerial spec. And in the normal game, that makes sense. I'm an aerial spec specialist. And my opponent is preparing for that eventual switch to like mass boats or mass wasps. So this is a very logical setup. But he doesn't know I have no intention of playing aerial spec this game. And instead, I really want to go carry balls. Alright, Mustang's cooking locks on my boats. Gets rid of my boats. Very nice. Chaffler is still a little weak. As you can see, we have crawlers trickling through from my opponent's board. But once the chaff is clear and once the balls start to engage with suck and also just a lot of HP from that armor, they have no answer, right? These Stonecrawlers, they're still level 1, which means they're being outscaled, and then the Mustangs are doing 0 damage to my units. So I'm essentially winning this round with brute force of the steel balls, and that's when you get the ball rolling, because if you can get level 2 or even higher on the steel balls, they have to come up with something like a scorpion or melting point with a multi-melter. And speaking of scorpion, we do have a card, so it's very scary here. I took the missile and I wanted to catch something up here. I expect my opponent to put down a shield somewhere here because of the high-level Mustang. He's probably thinking I'm going to put a missile right here. But instead, I'd put a missile right here, hoping to catch 2 units. Sold one of my boats, and surprisingly, my opponent got one of his boats. I'm not entirely sure. I think this is more of a band-aid solution against my high-level steel balls. The boats themselves, they don't do enough. For example, this level 4 steel balls with 34,000 damage. This boat is going to be shooting at it for, what, 2 or 3 volleys before it can even get one of them. Not to mention it's got suck, so it's going to regenerate health over time. Okay. Continue to sell my boats, and this turn I've decided to add Stonecrawlers with HE. Stonecrawlers with HE are terrifying against Mustangs because they tend to bunch up. And right now, I think the battle line here tend to be right here, just above his tower. So all of the units are going to be bunched up. His Stonecrawlers, his Sledgehammers, and that's going to give me a great opportunity with my Stonecrawlers to destroy his side. Alright, missile goes down. This boat is going to do pretty much nothing because of my marksman here. Missile goes down for him to stop the advance of my steel balls. HE is doing work, right? It's clearing out a lot of chaff up here. We still have a little bit of chaff that was trickling in, but overall, I think this is a pretty straightforward round. Once you get through the tanks, you get through the Stormcrawlers, then there's really nothing left to defeat my steel balls. And it's a little too late to hard pivot into Scorpion. And with that, it's GG. So sometimes when you're playing a specialist, you don't always have to play into his strength. Sometimes you can just use it as a threat, which is what I did here. I expect him to respect my aerial spec by going some type of anti-air, and I further baited it with triple boats, trying to get even more Mustangs before I eventually pivoted into steel balls with armor. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this game, and I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.